And so you were always going to have kids, I'm guessing.
Yes. We really did want to have kids, but what was interesting is when we married, I was 19, I was turning 20 in 3 months, and then your dad was 20. And all of my friends said, "Oh, are you going to quit school now?" Because in those days, a lot of the young girls would go to university to find a husband, and then they would quit school and just stay home. And I was so offended at that. I thought, what do you mean quit school? No, I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to have a career. I'm going to do all those things. So probably that's thanks to my great-grandmother and her decisions, right? So that was, but I always remember those so silly questions. You don't hear those anymore now. So,
but you did back then, and you had to stay on your game
to
stay focused on what you wanted.
Yes, of course. And there was never any doubt. I always knew I wanted a full degree, a career. I taught long enough to get a life credential, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about why I didn't teach when I went back to when I went back to work.
Okay.
But so I had a couple of miscarriages, and so we weren't. Eric was born when I was 25, and your dad was 26, but I had 2 miscarriages, so that was a relief. And then
those are no fun.
No. It's really it was really quite sad, actually, and especially the second one, because I think I was really further along, not that far, but I was. So anyway, but I had a very good obstetrician at Hoag Memorial Hospital, really particular. And when you were going to be born, what I learned from Eric is that all of my babies were born a little late. And so when the doctor would say, "Well, you're going to be due here," I would always add a week or 10 days, because I always wanted natural childbirth. So I just didn't want any kind of setup where they would start the labor earlier. So when you were going to be born, Dr. Unvert, who is very, very good obstetrician and very particular, one time I went into his office and a prior patient had left a tissue in the ashtray, and he just immediately picked it up and disposed of it. He was just very precise, and I like that about him. And I also like to have a relationship with a doctor that I can trust that doctor, and that's why I want to deliver my baby. I just don't want to go to anyone or anything. Well, so Eric was very late, and he wasn't. It wasn't. They wanted to induce labor, and I said, "Oh, let's wait a little longer," and I waited a little longer. Well, finally, after a while, they said, "No, now we have to go ahead." So, just a little quickie on Eric. They induced his labor on the liftoff of Apollo 11. So we watched the liftoff, and then we went to the hospital. It was kind of my liftoff too, and then he was born. And then 4 days later, they would keep us 4 days in those days. Grandma Benedict had flown over because she wanted to stay with us for a week and cook. And we drove into the garage just as the lunar lander was landing on the moon. And we had, baby Eric, and we could not get out of the car till we heard on the radio that it didn't crash. Then we went inside, and then they didn't get out and walk that was maybe 3 in the afternoon, and they didn't walk till about 11 or 12 at night. So it was really surreal. So now, with my pregnancy with you, I decided that it would be good to take a Lamaze class, that if I could work through my contractions and all, it would be really beneficial. And
Lamaze was the latest thing as far as breathing,
yes,
and this new way of giving birth.
Exactly. Okay. So we would learn as a
couple together.
Yes, together. And then as the labor contractions would rise, you would breathe faster and faster, and it really worked. I was amazed, because I tend to be a bit of a skeptic in life anyway. I think a healthy skeptic.
Comes from Grandpa, maybe.
I think so, yeah. But I think it's a good thing to have that. But it was so amazing. And we practiced. We had to practice, because, that was the way, so that when you got there, you didn't lose it or something. So I decided with you that it would be an all-natural childbirth. There would be no spinal injections or any of that I would do that. I was really excited, because it was kind of like my task, I'm going to try this out, and this is what we're going to do. So, of course, you were late, but I fended off the doctors. But the hardest thing was Dr. Unvert was leaving for like 5 days to, let's say, a medical convention. He said, well, I'm going to be gone here. I know the baby's not quite due, but I really think we should induce labor. And I said, no, we're not going to induce labor. I'm sorry. I really want you to deliver my baby Brian, but I'll just have to take the chances. And actually, statistically, it was probably more on my winning side because I'd already seen that, Eric was later. I think I ovulate probably every 5 weeks, but the doctors would never acknowledge that in those days. Now they do, but they didn't. Anyway, so I took my chances, and he got back, and then you were late, and so I was out gardening, cleaning up in the garden. I remember it was kind of fun digging the dirt, and went to bed that night.
You're like 9 months pregnant and you're gardening.
Yes, I know, right? But I mean, easygoing that. And you were so tossing and turning, and just weren't settling down, moving, and this and that. And then I realized that I was in labor, So I told your dad, and of course we had the little bag packed. And so I called the doctor, and they said, yeah, let's go. And so we drove there. It's like a 20-minute drive from Costa Mesa to Newport Beach, where that is. And man, it was, the contractions were really coming, fast and furious, close together. And I got there, and of course, in those days, the nurses, they weren't quite into Lamaze and all of that. And so she says, well, we need to give you a spinal. And it's like, no, thank you. I tried to be as nice as I could. And please call the doctor. He was on the way anyway. And so they were pretty huffy and puffy with me, but I stood my ground. And then your dad had not even gotten into the labor room. He didn't even have his green scrubs on. And I said, well, I'm going to just go use the bathroom. And then I could just feel that it was like the water hadn't broken yet, but it was just like, I'm there. So I called down, and they came, and they basically wheeled me right to delivery. So you were like the easiest. I mean, it was intense, but honestly, your labor was like 2 hours, 2.5, no more. And so then we got to delivery, and your dad gets to come in because he has the scrubs and everything. And it was really easy because I just had hardly any labor. You were the fastest. Yeah, intense, but yeah, fast. So you came out, everything was fine.
Painful?
No, because I did the Lamaze. Okay, then when you go in there, what they do is they do give you a little shot and do an episiotomy so that you have a clean exit there. Okay. And so, but honestly, no, actually, I have to tell you, they didn't even do an injection. But because the baby's head has so much pressure, you don't feel anything. Yeah, the nerve endings they're already big because they're tight to your head. So yeah, it was easy. You were there. And you were my biggest baby, 7'11".
7 pounds, 11 ounces.
Yeah, 7 pounds, 11 ounces, right. And the quickest labor. I mean, all of mine were pretty fast, but you were definitely the fastest. And, they held you up, and everybody was excited, and we knew, and yeah, and we chose your name because we liked the name Brian, and then we wanted to honor our Benedict family with your middle name. So that's why you're Brian Benedict Rose.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now my second son is Damon Benedict Rose.
That's such an honor.